So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can destroy your next exam like it owes you money. And I'm going to do that by sharing you these 3 tips that have allowed me to completely destroy and ace my exams. And these tips can literally be applied by any student who's taking any board exam right now. If you have an exam coming up soon, this is probably going to be one of the most valuable videos that you're ever gonna watch, because your exam is coming up soon, right? Most people think that exams is kind of like just a test of how much you actually understand and how much knowledge you're able to recall. But that's actually not true. I believe that the exams, just like a sports game, is kind of like an art of performance. So you could have practiced really hard in training, but if you fail to execute on the real game, then you're cooked, basically. You're literally cooked, deep fried, and I don't know, whatever else adjective, whatever. So basically these are 3 tips that I'm going to show you. And so the first tip is your weakest link. So this is like a chain, basically. And with a chain, if even one of these chains is really weak, if you pull on it really hard on both sides, the chain is going to snap no matter what, right? So if you pull on the chain on the left hand side and the right hand side, and even one of these chains, even literally one of these chains, maybe it's just one out of 100, if one of those chains are weak and you pull it really, really hard on both sides, the chain is going to snap at that weak point. So it doesn't matter whether these chains are strengthened by titanium or whatever, but if one of these chains is made from cheap aluminum, right? It's probably going to break. The whole thing is going to break. So why am I telling you this? So on the exam, you are not limited by your strongest subjects, but you are limited by your weakest subjects. Okay, so we can look at the weakest link from this point of view, right? So it's literally the same as, when you have a list of 5 chapters. For example, this was me when I was taking my AS level statistics exam. There was what did I learn? Histograms, probability theory, something similar, right? I was limited by my permutations and combinations topic. And because of that, when I took my statistics exam, I got cooked by permutations and combinations. And you might have heard me tell the story before, but if you haven't, basically I was in the exam, I was flipping through the question paper, and I was literally hoping, praying that I would not get permutations and combinations, or at least a hard question on permutations and combinations on my final exam. But lo and behold, as I flipped through the pages, guess what was on the last page? A permutations and combinations 10 marker question. And because of that, I got an 80 out of 100 on my AS level statistics exam when I averaged it out and everything, with the curve and stuff. So I was quite disappointed. And this is the key thing I've learned, is that you need to focus on your weakest topics first, not your strongest topics. You're not limited by your strongest subjects. You're limited by your weakest ones. When I was taking my A-levels, I highly prioritized my weaknesses first. I didn't really care about my strengths until I was able to fill in my weaknesses first. So if there's one piece of advice I can give you right now that might literally change the way, literally change your score by a letter grade, it would be to focus on your weaknesses as much as you can. Do as many, topical past papers as possible on that weak chapter that you're probably not so confident in, because otherwise it will literally come back and haunt you on the exam like it happened for me. So I don't want that to happen to you. Target your weakness. Okay, so second one, you're probably wondering what this is. Well, imagine you're LeBron James and you're about to play in the NBA. Would you literally, as you hop on the court, you arrive on the bus and stuff, you walk down the court, you literally start playing? Would you literally go and start playing as soon as you hop off the bus? Probably not, right? You probably go through a pre-game ritual. I don't know what LeBron James' pre-game ritual is, but I think it probably involves something like shooting a couple of warm-up shots, or listening to his favorite music while shooting those shots, doing some, stretching, like all professional level athletes, they have a pre-game ritual. So since the exam is kind of basically like a basketball game, it's kind of like a competition, right? You're competing against hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of students around the world. So it might be smart to have a pre-exam ritual, the same way that you have a pre-game ritual. So here's what it looks like. So here's my own pre-exam ritual that I used in A-levels that allowed me to get 3 stars in some of my subjects. So my pre-exam ritual was basically, I woke up, I went to school, and then I would kind of basically spam through all of my flashcards. So this was when I was taking computer science, business, and math. I had flashcards for all of those subjects. So I would literally spam all of those flashcards, and then it's not to study, but kind of just to make me feel a little bit more confident about myself. Because you see, on the exam, you're not supposed to study it's kind of too late to start doing more past papers, right? You kind of need to, it's kind of just flipping through the material, making sure you know basically everything that's being tested, just kind of to reassure yourself that you know what's going to be on the exam and stuff like that. So that's what I did. First thing, I skimmed through all my flashcards. Then I watched some YouTube videos explaining the topic. So if it was for business, I would basically just watch a crap ton of YouTube videos on examination techniques. So for example, it was taking the biz. This was for Edexcel A-level business. There was this guy called Taking the Biz. I literally binge watched all of his exam techniques videos because business is a very, very essay-based subject. And because of that, I literally binge watched all of his videos. I felt like I was a lot more prepared on the exam because I knew how to write a good essay. So if you're taking an essay-based subject, then that's probably something you could do as well. Next thing I did, so this is more close to the exam, so maybe it's 30 minutes or 1 hour before the exam. So what I did, I remember, I meditated for maybe around 10 minutes just to get my mind into a calm mental state. So it was just, I was sitting down in the library and I was basically just taking deep breaths while my eyes were closed, and I was just relaxing myself. Yeah, so I did that. And then afterwards, I made sure to fill my water bottle. This is really important because on the exam, if you're dehydrated, you're basically cooked, right? I've tried doing an exam in university, and I literally that day I remember I forgot my water bottle. And as I was in the exam room and I was trying to solve a question, I was dehydrated, and because of that, my mind couldn't think straight. I got a B on the exam, and I'm probably sure it's because I didn't have enough water. So fill up your water bottle. That's really important. Then what comes next? I think this is probably the most important thing. I would give a short prayer. So I would pray something so I'm Christian, so I pray to God. So basically, I was the moment I started praying, the moment I started to talk with God, I felt so much more reassured. I felt like the stuff that was in my control, I felt more in control of. But the stuff that was outside of my control, those things, it was kind of putting all of my worries, anxiety, and despair, and I was just handing it over to God. As I remember, as I was doing my exam, I was so much more confident because I'd literally done all of these pre-exam rituals beforehand. So, what's the third thing? I love talking about this. Spiritual warfare. Literally, every single study YouTuber you probably watch right now, no one will probably ever talk to you about spiritual warfare because it's probably seen more as a religious thing. But, have you ever realized that sometimes when you sit down and you try to do a past paper or something and you literally cannot focus because your mind is bullying you with thoughts? That's exactly what is happening. You're having spiritual warfare with the devil. Modern psychology does not believe in the soul, and because of that, they cannot explain some mental illnesses that happen. Religion can explain that. Religion says that it's because you're being tempted by the devil. The devil is having an influence over you. So let me tell you a story. I feel like, so it was around a week ago, I was trying to do a microeconomics past paper in my dormitory library. So like basically it's literally like downstairs of now. I was sitting down, I was focused, I was listening to I wasn't listening to music, but I had like earbuds on and I was literally locked in. But then I started to get these random thoughts that entered my brain. And one of those thoughts I literally remember was, Matthew, what are you doing? You're literally not good enough. You're studying, but so what? You're probably going to fail. You're probably not going to get good grades as the person next to you. You're not going to be as good as Anna, who's sitting in front of you. I was literally getting those thoughts. Those thoughts literally came out of nowhere, and they started like messing with my brain, and like I couldn't focus. I literally could not focus because my brain was so bombarded with so many negative thoughts. Where those negative thoughts come from, I don't know, but it probably came from, if it probably came from my own mind, or it came from the devil. And most likely it came from the devil. So even if you're not religious, fair enough, you could probably argue, Buddhism argues and says that your mind is actually the one that generates all of these thoughts. And because it generates these thoughts, it's kind of like it becomes like one thought, which leads to another thought, which leads to this other thought and this other thought. And it just becomes a big swirling mess inside your brain. If you're Islam, or you probably heard of shaitan, right? Same thing, same concept. The devil loves to tempt you with thoughts of anxiety, depression, and despair. It loves to mess up your whole mental system. The devil loves it when he can see a human suffering, because he is jealous of a human. So okay, never mind. That's a little bit too theological, but whatever. Basically, all you need to understand is just like the devil is here to implant negative thoughts inside your brain. And if you've ever, experienced like some negative thoughts as you were trying to study or work or something like that, when you ever had thoughts of despair, thoughts of you judging other people, that's from the devil. That's not from you. And there's only 3 ways that you can deal with this. The first one is meditation. Now, I think you probably heard of meditation. Maybe you've tried it, but I personally think meditation is an excellent way to get rid of these thoughts that are bombarding your brain. The second thing is journaling. Same thing with meditation, but with journaling, you're writing those thoughts on a piece of paper. And when you can actually like see your thoughts on a piece of paper, it becomes much easier to look at them and go, wait, why am I even thinking these thoughts? So it allows you to see your own thoughts, and when you can actually see your own thoughts, you realize like, oh, this is actually stupid. Why am I even thinking about this? So yeah, meditation and journaling. But the last thing, and I think the thing that no self-improvement YouTuber out there will ever talk to you about, or at least the traditional self-improvement YouTubers like Hamza and stuff, it is prayer. Prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's the prayer I use whenever I start to feel a sense of anxiety inside my heart. Have mercy on me, a sinner. So 12 words, literally, I repeat that 12 words over and over again. It grants me spiritual freedom. It's kind of like my soul, when it's infected, like my mind is kind of like infected with all these thoughts from the devil, right? Whenever I say that prayer, those thoughts get blown away. It's not like instantly it gets blown away, but the more I say it, the more like imagine kind of like a breeze blowing away all of the smoke that's in the room. Maybe like you're in a room, a really, really smoky room. It's kind of like having a fan that blows all of the air outside of the room. That's the prayer. It's called the Jesus prayer. And if you're not Christian, that's fine. But you could at least try this prayer. Lord, have mercy. It doesn't matter whether you're religious, agnostic, or whatever, but try these 3 words. Lord, have mercy. When you repeat that prayer multiple times over and over again, you will start to feel a sense of humility coming inside your heart. Humility dismantles the devil. When you say, Lord, have mercy, and this might be a little bit too much for a study video, but when you say, Lord, have mercy, you're basically allowing your heart to become more humble. And when you're humble, the devil flees. The devil literally does not understand humility. So okay, this is kind of a long video, but these are the 3 things that allowed me to basically destroy my next exam. And a little bit more about number 3. Whenever you're in the exam and you kind of get like this panic thought of anxiety, like, oh crap, I can't do this question. Oh shoot, I'm actually wasting time. The devil loves that. The devil loves for you to have despair, thoughts of despair. So when you're in the exam, close your eyes for 10 seconds and just at least meditate. You don't have to pray, but at least meditate on the thought that you're having. 10 seconds. Take a deep breath, relax, and remind yourself that all of this is basically temporary. If you want like the full step-by-step guide on how I basically kind of like destroyed my exams and stuff, like my full step-by-step guide on how to destroy your exams, you might want to check out A-Star Students. I literally have a 2-hour long course inside that can literally help you gain the highest marks on your next exam. But as always, I hope you've got a ton of value from this video. It's kind of a long one, I apologize. But as always, may God guide us on the right path, and I'll see you in the next video.